RMS Titanic was the largest man-made moving object on Earth. It was almost the size of 5 planes, weighed 52,310 tons, and carried 2,400 passengers. The ship was on its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York when the disaster struck. The 100-foot tall iceberg was spotted at 11:14 p.m. on April 14, 1912. The starboard side of the Titanic struck the iceberg, creating a series of holes over 100 meters below the waterline of the hull. The hull was not punctured by the iceberg, but rather dented such that the hull seams buckled and separated, allowing water to seep in. Only 706 out of the almost 2,200 passengers survived. The ship featured 16 watertight components, which were designed to seal in the event of a punctured hull. After collision, the hull bulked and separated, allowing the water to seep in. 5 of the ship's watertight compartments were breached, while the remaining compartments were sealed immediately. The water filled the bow of the ship first and began spilling from compartment to compartment as their angle in the water became steeper, causing the stern to lift up in the air. The ship broke into two at 2:20 a.m. and sunk. On September 20th, 1911, the Olympics, Titanic's sister ship, was broadsided by a warship which ripped an 11-meter opening in its hull, resulting in 2 watertight compartments flooding. The engineers should have used this as a chance to foresee the spillage on watertight compartments on the future Titanic. Scientists even later concluded that were it not for the watertight components altogether, the incoming water would have spread out, keeping the ship horizontal. The ship would have remained afloat for another 6 hours. It is clear that in this case a safety mechanism failed, which directly resulted in loss of life. We will analyze both the ethical and legal obligations, which is overlooked in terms of the standpoint of a present-day Ontario engineer. The Titanic was marketed as unsinkable, which may have led engineers to neglect the design flaw of the Olympics. If they had taken note after the first incident, they would have realized that the watertight components were inadequate. Moreover, the engineers testing the safety system did not consider the position at which a sinking ship may be in during distress, which is something that should have clearly been taken into account. These factors are in violation of Section 72.2b, which is failure to make reasonable provision for the safeguarding of life, health, and property. While marketing the ship as unsinkable is something that is sure to attract attention, it cannot be said with 100% certainty, and is therefore in violation of Section 77.2 II, which states endeavor at all times to enhance public regard of the practitioner's profession by discouraging untrue statements. The dynamic testing of a scale model would have better predicted the working of safety mechanisms. The correct procedure would have been to start with the simulated model sinking to see how the ship may actually react. Due to the shortcuts in testing, the design team must realize the problem and resolve this issue within the company. If that doesn't work, they should bring it to the PEO licensing body to ensure proper procedure. Failing to do so is in violation of 72.2c and 77.8, which requires a practitioner to maintain honor and integrity. This would be a case of tort law in which the plaintiff are the passengers, their family, and the owner of the ship, White Star Line, while the defendant are the ship designers, Harland and Wolff. We see that the defendant owed the plaintiffs a duty of care to use their expertise to build a safe ship with all its working safety features. We see that this duty of care was breached when the safety mechanism, also known as the watertight components, failed to work, and that even following an incident to the sister ship, no corrections were made, demonstrating negligence resulting in damage to the plaintiffs. Finally, we can see that this caused the plaintiffs damage, as many of the passengers lost their lives, and WSL lost their ship and reputation. Precedence tells us in the tort law case Donahue v. Stevenson, a duty of care was owed to ensure that there was no contamination in the beer. In the end, the House of Lords ruled in the favor of the plaintiff. We believe the same would have happened in our case as well, although the watertight components are only one aspect that contributed to the loss of life. The fact that the safety design system was a failure would surely result in a court ruling in favor of the plaintiffs, penalizing the ship's designers. In the wake of the disaster, many of the issues highlighted were addressed, and legislation came into effect improving safety requirements. These include carrying a certain amount of lifeboats, 24-hour radio watch and distress rockets, and an international ice patrol committee.